So since we already are talking about culture, you mentioned agility. You mentioned safety, right? An environment where it's okay to fail as long as you're learning and you're moving forward. Anything else about the values and what have you observed about the culture? What else needs to be part of the culture in order to be successful in a startup?
I think there's a misperception by employees at different levels in the organization that culture is driven by the CEO and it belongs to the CEO and maybe the executive team as well, but everybody owns culture. You can be an individual contributor and contribute positively or negatively to the culture in immense ways by what you do, how you act, what you say, how you show up, how you carry yourself. So I think an organization needs to make everybody understand that culture is owned by everybody. It's not owned by the HR department. It's not owned by the CEO. It's not owned by just the executive team. Everybody, down to the individual contributor, owns culture and they need to contribute to it. And I think, you can't be afraid to, learn from outside sources. I mean, you can't be afraid to ask for help. And, I've used MarchFifteen, many times in the past, whether it's for recruiting, but also for culture development, executive leadership development, executive coaching, and these sort of things. Because, culture is very, very important, but it's very complex. And I think, it's not that you can do it on your own. So don't be afraid to ask for help and really focus on it.
Thank you for the plug, by the way. Really appreciate it. But since we are talking about the culture, one of the things that you touch upon is the consistency of behavior and how you show up matters.
Sure.
Which means that values are critical.
Sure.
So does it mean that you need to have courage to let go of people who don't support the culture, or do you tolerate those rogue individuals who might be brilliant but potentially toxic? What's your perspective on this?
That's a very interesting question, and I've had this conversation with people before, where you may have somebody, a sales manager, a sales VP as an example, and they're hitting their numbers, but they are very toxic to their team, to other teams. They build silos in the organization, and they are toxic to the organization. So I've seen, justifiably so, companies, quote unquote, parting ways with people who are strong performers technically, tactically, but they were very toxic to the culture of the organization. And sometimes you need to do that. And that's a very tough decision for a middle manager to let somebody go who's hitting their numbers. And now they've got this gap, but you really need to look at it long term. I mean, culture is something that's very long term to develop, long term to fix, but can be damaged rather quickly. So you need to focus on that for sure.
I always compare a toxic individual in an organization to a blue tangerine in a tangerine box. If you tolerate it, before you know, you have a whole...
They'll all turn blue or green, yeah, absolutely. That's a good analogy, yeah. But I mean, I've worked for 35 years in the corporate world, and I've seen everything, as I'm sure you have, and I've seen many instances where people are, good people, nice people, hearts in the right place, hit their numbers, but they're incredibly toxic to the organization, and that's bad. It can reach all parts of the organization and really do damage.
My experience is that if you deal with them, the organization, the people will come to you and say, "What took you so long?"
You're absolutely right. That is 99% of the case, where employees will say, "Didn't you see it? What took you so long? What took you so long to act on it?" I've seen that many times as well. You're absolutely right.